I get really, really, really excited about talking about theories. And I love talking about theories of identity formation because it's so fundamental in how a person sees himself within the context of relationships, regardless of the relationships, family relationships, school relationships. How do I perceive my value in this world and where does it come from? So that's what we're going to be talking about in this module. So I asked the question, who am I in relationship to my environment and to others? This is going to be led by Cooley, who's going to help us better understand this concept of why it's important that we take a look at that, who I am within the context of environment. Some people think them of themselves as being islands that nobody's ideas or nobody's attitudes are going to bother them. But in fact, if we look a little further, we're going to see that maybe we need to alter that type of thought or thinking. So Cooley shares with us a new way of thinking. And Cooley says, he's a sociologist from days gone by, and he says, as a quote, each to each a looking glass reflects the other that doth pass. This means for us to take a look at how it is that we're mirrored by other people. If I keep telling you how beautiful and how intelligent or how handsome, how amazing you are, you start to believe that. And if you hear it enough times, you're going to believe those components about yourself. The reverse can be true too if we're told that you don't have those wonderful qualities. And when someone looks at you with those admirable eyes, just with such admiration, versus not so much, that can play a role in how we view ourselves. Cooley says, I'm not what I think I am, and I'm not what you think I am. I am what you think I am. Isn't that powerful? So I'm not what I think I am, and I'm not what you think I am, but I am what I think you think that I am. So I'm thinking about what you think that I am more than about what you truly are thinking about me or about what I truly think about myself. Oh, complex. So there are three main components to that. First of all, we imagine how others see us. So how do they see us? How are they judging us? How do we think that they're judging us? And then we respond. So if I think someone is judging me as being brilliant, super intelligent, I may respond with brilliance and intelligence and put forth my best effort. But what if they're not? What if I believe that they're judging me as being one-sided or judgmental or conceited or inconsiderate, then I'm going to respond to them differently. Here's a funny little cartoon, next slide, that that is just kind of entertaining as we take a look at how my mom and dad see me. Oh, look at that halo. How my girlfriend sees me. Ooh, look at those muscles. How my older brother sees me. Ooh. And then how my ex-girlfriend sees me. The looking glass self. You just watched A Girl Like Me, and you took a look at the complexity of race on identity. What'd you think? I'm guessing that the doll test made your heart throb, maybe you even shed a little tear. Erikson, a theorist, sociological theory, takes a look at one of the roles as we're developing that is entitled the identity crisis. And this comes about when the when the adolescent or the pre-adolescent is saying, "Oh my gosh, who am I?" And and then we try on various roles to see how they fit. Um, and some of them are just really make a lot of sense, but some may not, and some may be very difficult to for the child to conform to. But in this fifth stage, right around adolescence, Eric Erickson says we're going to be trying on to see who it is we really are. I know that there comes a time when students ask questions like, or people ask questions like, why is it that I act one way when I'm around my mom, and another way when I'm around my friends, and another way when I'm around my grandma, or another way when I'm around my pastor or a teacher? Who's the real me? Well, Eric Erickson says we have a variety of selves, and it's we start to make sense of ourselves at this period of time in our growth, and we say, this is who I am in this particular state. But um, in this discussion, Eric Erickson says we take on possible selves, and this is when, especially in our high school years or pre-adolescent years, our students start to try on the various personality sets or self-images. I like to use my son as an example, so I'm going to use him as some of the examples for trying on selves. Isaac had had the ability to conform to a variety of different avenues of interest. That's a nice way of saying that he tried on lots of selves. But we have different selves. We have the false self, and this is actually one of the most dangerous and can cause a lot of worthlessness, a depression. And this is when I try on a set of behaviors because I believe that people are going to reject the real me. And so I'm just going to try to please other people. This can result in a lot of hopelessness. We can also have in the false self that desire to please or impress other people. And a lot of times people will do that just as a way to fit in, maybe initially. And then the third is just an experimental, just to see what it feels like. What kind of self might I have? And I like to use Isaac as an example. He was really into experimenting his false selves. We had hippie Isaac who wore tie dye and grew his hair long, and then we had the rock star Isaac who, with his long hair, would then put on his really tight jeans, and he played in a rock band, and I went to all sorts of crazy places in Hollywood to hear him play in various venues that kind of rocked his mom's socks. And um, then we had Isaac, who was an infidel, who, was kind of anti anything that was a religion. And then we had the religious Isaac, who attended Bible studies. And it was like, oh my gosh. And then I had cowboy Isaac, who bought a cowboy hat and listened to country music and had a big gold cowboy belt. And wow, he just tried on a lot of different selves. And although there was sometimes I had questions like, okay, how safe are these? I wanted to be along for the ride. So as a mom, I was there to just make sure that he stayed safe. And it's been interesting to watch him now as an adult, to who the self really is, as he's now a doctor and he's in the Air Force, still liking that whole dress up part. But the real Isaac is shining through much more beautifully than maybe those experimental false self Isaacs were. James Marcia takes a look at the identity status, which I think is just really important for us to understand. That people are identifying who they are within varying degrees, particularly by the encouragement or lack thereof that they have from people in their surroundings. So I'm going to start with diffusion. Diffusion is when a person doesn't really give a crap. No goals. If you ask him what his goals in life are, he's going to say, I don't know, or even care. He may flip from one thing to another, drop in and out of school, start jobs, stop jobs, no commitment to who they are. And truly, when asked who they are, they don't know or they don't really care to share who they are. They're not really interested. That person isn't really interested in goal setting. Then we have a foreclosure, and I like to think of the next slides as being kind of steps to making your way to achievement, goal achievement, or identity status achievement, I should say. But the first is foreclosure, and foreclosure is I like to use this example. My grandma was uh, my grandma was a staunch Republican, and so everything that when I was growing up, everything was Republican. She had elephants for vases. She was president of the Republican Women's League and so forth. And so the conversations that she had there were lots about Republican Party. So when I voted the first time, I went to the polls and I voted Republican. And I voted Republican, and when people would ask me why, well, I didn't think that there was even another question. I didn't question what I'd been brought up with. I didn't question why I might vote another way. That's what I did. So that's my belief system. I did not question the beliefs. I couldn't answer a definitive reason why I voted that way, just that was the right way from my perspective at that time. James Marsh. So foreclosure would be that I went into the polls and I voted Republican because that was the only way. There was no other options in my belief system because of what grandma taught. Now, negative identity is kind of a sub stage of foreclosure. This is when I'd go to the polls and I'd vote only Democrat. Why? Because I wanted to do just the opposite of what grandma did. So not because that's what my belief systems were, not because I thought that was the right candidate necessarily, but I would say, no, I'm going to do just the opposite. So negative identity, says Marcia, comes about when we're still caught with the belief systems of the society or our family, someone other than our own that is going to be making decisions for us. And of course, in this case, I'm going to be doing just the opposite. So I'm going in to vote for the first time and I'm going to vote Democrat. Why? Because grandma is Republican. Moratorium is the time now that we take beyond foreclosure, or it's the time that's given for us to say, what do I believe? What happens? And so this is what happened for me. I went to college and I sat in on my first political science class, and the instructor was phenomenal in helping me better understand the political process, what the differences were in between the political parties. I just gleaned all this information, and then I started having conversations with other people. And over that course of time, I was able to better understand what I believed, what I innately believed about the political process, what I innately believed about Republican and Democrat and Liberal Party and liberal and conservative. The moratoriums comes about in a couple of ways. It's kind of like a pause button. College allows us that. It allows us to sit in the classroom and take in all these different ideas and help us to shake them out to see what it is that sticks as part of who we are. The military is also one that is also a pause that also gleans us the Marcia says it's through our foreclosure and our negative, and then that moratorium that allows us to really look at from different vantage points to then make our way to achievement. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be in that sequence, but it typically follows in some sort of order like that. The moratorium is what oftentimes offers us that achievement capability. So when I go to the polls today, I don't vote because of grandma or because I want to do just the opposite of grandma. I vote at the polls because of what I believe and what I know about the candidates and what my fundamental belief systems are. Achievement comes through that exploration process. So I know more who I am as a political in my political party as someone who goes in to vote. Religions and many belief systems go through these stages. The next theorist, and he's my favorite, Bronfenbrenner, he believes that the child must be seen within the context of the family and community. We are not islands. He says that I am a product of my environment. I am most affected by those closest to me, my family, the media, the community, peers in school, but I'm also affected by how they interact with one another. So the first is the microsystem and this microsystem. So my parents have a huge influence on me. They see me daily as a child, how much television I watch and where I live and who are my friends and which school I go to has a direct impact. So does how often my family members communicate about what we're watching on television, or how often my family members communicate with the school, or how my community is involved in the school, and so forth. Bronfenbrenner says it doesn't end there. Now we go out to the next layer, and the next layer says we have this exosystem. What are the rules that govern our family? What are the rules and ordinances that govern our community? What regulations are there that the family impose on how often the child sees the peers? What are the laws about that child's life that are going to impact who he is? So when we take a look at, for instance, school board regulations, when I was teaching in Minnesota, one of the school board regulations were that the children could not wear, or the students could not wear hats at school. And so we had to strongly enforce that. That was a huge deal for that particular school district. They didn't have a lot of regulations about other things, but by heavens, those hats were taken off from the heads of all the children when they walked through the school. So how does that impact what children believe about themselves with respect to what people deem as important? And then we have the belief systems. Belief systems come about through religiosity. It comes about through the belief about why it is that the students had to take their hats off in the school. Customs, traditions, what the values are for that particular area. When I was living in Minnesota, Wednesday nights, school activities did not exist because it was church night. And so schools did not hold any type of activities after 4:30 on Wednesday nights. Those are cultural values that impacted the child. And then we have the chronosystem. This is what's happening right now in this place in time. What's going on in the 2000s? What's happening when I was growing up in the 70s? What kind of attitudes then permeated me into my being as a child? What invoked the thinking for me and my cohorts, and subsequently for you and your cohorts. So this wraps up our discussion about theories. I ask you to address these theories in your wrap-up journal. So hopefully you took some notes on what was introduced to you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me.